Should be live. We are live. Joey, welcome back, mate. How are you doing today?
Live and direct from the Dirty Jers, New Jersey, USA.
Dirty Jersey. Is it Jersey City or New Jersey City? How do you refer to
There's
it?
a Jersey City, but I'm in the state of New Jersey. I'm in the city of South Orange, New Jersey, which is about 20 minutes west of Manhattan.
It's a pleasure to have you with me again today, Joey, and welcome to everybody. Welcome back to Own Your Gifts, episode 8. We've had 8 weeks get away from us, Joey, and Joey and I. Joey's coming from New Jersey. I'm coming from Sydney, Australia, actually Camperdown. Welcome back to the show, and we're here just to share some of our tips, our tricks, our hacks around gratitude and improving our levels of happiness. Joey and I get to, we're both men in recovery, both very similar amounts of time. Not that time matters, I reckon, Joey, but just here to share some of our tips and tricks. So, guys, please let us know if you're watching. Let us know where you're watching from. We would like to say thank you very much for all the continued support. Hi, Heidi. Hi, Janae, brother, Justin. It's a pleasure to have all you guys here. How's life, Joey? What do we got for our audience today, mate?
Justin's in New Jersey. Nice.
Sure, Justin.
Yeah. Hey, man. It's we're winging it like we normally do. We did have a guest lineup that fell through, and we're here to provide value and get vulnerable and hopefully share ways that we can increase our happiness and plug into the higher force of gratitude. And I had some thoughts because I had moments. Well, I just wanted to tell a quick story of when I first got sober. I got sober in 2009, and after a detox here, I went to a treatment center in Utah, and it was not my first treatment center. But as the disease commonly does, as decades went by and things continued to get worse and worse, and I definitely was defeated, and I had no desire to stay sober. I was going to do my time, so to speak, until the smoke cleared and I can get back to business. That's the truth. I guess I could make up a bunch of bullshit and say all the other times I had gotten clean over the years and gotten some time separated from alcohol and drugs that I had relapsed, but that's not really the truth. I think you have to be able to, you need to be in to go back out. And that was never the case for me. I would always get clean and sober for other people or outside circumstances or outside environment. But, I had this thought today because I was thinking about rehab because my aunt of mine, she had just passed a week or two ago. And, and her and my uncle had come to visit me when I was in Utah. And, things got really dark for me when alcohol and drugs were removed. And my recovery journey was, I got a lot sicker before I got any better. And where this plays into, finding things to be grateful for is I was in 360 degrees surrounded by beautiful mountains in the Rocky Mountains in Utah, in the United States, in the Midwest. And I was about a year sober, and I had just gotten out of treatment, and I was inpatient for 3 months. I was in a halfway house for a few months, and then I went back into inpatient sober because I was getting really sick mentally and emotionally, and I hadn't picked up, but I was hitting another bottom. But and we had gone out on with some friends golfing, and I'm not a golfer, but I just went to hang out. And it was the first time that I had looked up, and I had been there over a year. Like, I looked up and I saw these mountains, with the blue sky backdrop, and I had been there a year. I had been there a year and I had never looked at the mountains once. And, you know, I had gone decades just like The Walking Dead, like never looking up and appreciating all the beauty that's surrounding me. And you know, that's a story that came to mind today because I was thinking of my aunt and they had come to visit me and it sparked that for me. So, you know, I guess I have a question for the audience if you want to participate is like, you know, when was the first time that you realized that gratitude wasn't only something that we were gifted or struck by, or, you know, something that, you know, we were obviously grateful for if something really good happened, or maybe God or the universe just gave us a gift. When was it when you realized that it was something that we could actually, with actions, plug into and generate at will? If you would like to participate, either through commenting, or Danny even said that we might wing it and try to, you know, bring somebody on here if you want. But like, I'd like to open it up with a question.
Sure, we do have that ability, Joey, to bring someone on the show. We do have a few people watching. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you've just joined us, let us know where you're watching from. Joey has got a great question for you. And Joey, just going back to what you just said about, you know, entering that phase of your life, that treatment, and starting to see the gifts. I guess if I can just share something with you too around that while we're waiting for someone to join us on the live broadcast. But I remember that exact same period in my life. We're going back 12 years ago, where I'm hanging at this institution in Roselle, right? It's called Callum Park, actually, the old name for it. It used to be an old psych ward. There's a lot of shit that went on down there at Callum Park. And people went to rehab there, you know. People who were a little bit ahead of me and had been around a little bit, they're talking about how beautiful the grounds of Callum Park were, you know. And I remember thinking, what's beautiful about it? This is horrible, you know, like being in that, could not see the beauty in anything, you know. In fact, people laughing used to annoy me. People being happy used to annoy me. And then I remember maybe 10 or 12 months later seeing some beauty and just that moment hitting me like, now I get it, you know. Like, it's like my spirit had woken up. I get what they were talking about, you know. I got about the beauty, you know, the simple things here, you know, the colors, the flowers, the birds chirping, the sun out, the moon, all of that stuff woke up my spirits. So yeah, I love that. Look, we've got an answer here from Justin. That's a very lucid distinction about being sober for others versus actually having an honest desire to be sober. Old school, they said honest desire, and then they changed it to desire. Oh yes, hey Justin, thanks for sharing with us. And as I said, if hey Heidi, but yeah, man. So I absolutely do remember that moment, and I call that moment, I guess it's my first spiritual awakening too. You know, it's the day I started to see the joy and the happiness and the good stuff in life. I've just come off a shift at work. If anyone out there didn't know, I have this wonderful job that I work with a bunch of men in the early days of recovery. You know, I get to share some of those and be reminded about some of those experiences, just like we've suggested. But yesterday we did a group around setting goals. You know, goal setting. It's old school. It goes back but a long way, but it's important. First of all, to acknowledge the good things that we have done as well. You know, when we think about our goals and we think about setting and trying to work out what it is we want to achieve, I love just to sort of also acknowledge the things that we have achieved today. You know, it's one of those simple things, you know, being in treatment, being in a rehab center, trying, being able to change your life. It's such a positive aspect too, Joey. Yeah, so just wanted to share that with you, mate.
Yeah, I've had some really amazing experiences with the power of, you know, handwritten goals, you know, with, you know, clear intentions and, you know, coupled with elevated emotion. Like, you know, I as I was mentioning earlier, like my recovery was one of the more slower, painful nature. And I stayed away from a drink or a drug, and I was, a daily active participant in my recovery, and I got sober in 12-step rooms. I will say that, that's my experience, and I don't believe that it's the only way to get and stay sober, but that's what works for me. But I got really sick, and I got depressed, and I was living in, this victim state of mind, and I had a ton of wreckage that seemed insurmountable. And the truth is I was just pissed off. I was just pissed off that, like, that once that obsession, the drink and drug, was lifted, which you mentioned a spiritual experience. For me, that's like walking on water, or, the seas parting, or the burning bush. Like, that's some shit that I did not expect or necessarily want. But I was just pissed off that it was off the table. And I got depressed, or I was diagnosed with depression anyway. And, I'm not a doctor, and I know a little bit more about it being out on the other side, is that, I took that diagnosis and turned it into my identity. And, I did depression better than anybody. And I wallowed in self-pity, and I wallowed in victimhood, and I continued to, despite my recovery efforts, I turned to food and and I was killing myself with food. And I put on close to 200 pounds from 2009 to 415. And I hit another bottom. And given that gift, this is a gift, right? The gift of desperation. And, sometimes, gifts come in forms of adversity or pain or struggle, or difficulties or disabilities or other types of challenges, if we're looking for, the lesson, blessings, and meanings. But, I had basically came to the end of the line again, and I feel like I hit another bottom, a worse bottom, in sobriety, because it's like I almost didn't have an excuse. Like, it makes sense that, like, I'm at the bottom if I'm sticking a needle in my arm and running around on the streets. It's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But hey, like, my life started progressively getting better on the outside, and I slowly began, was doing a lot of deep introspection and recovery work, and I was being of service to others, and I started to get things back. And so why was I in this state of mind? I started to beat myself up anymore, but I hit another bottom. And during that time, I had those moments when I was struck with gratitude, like I stumbled upon it, or God or the universe or whatever gave me a little taste and gave me a gift, and I was overwhelmed with feelings of gratitude. But those times were few and far between. And I started to, like, monomaniacally study the literature out there and the people out there who were teaching and speaking and writing and sharing their experience about having the power to actually generate gratitude at will. And I started experimenting with these little tools, one at a time. And I like to really keep things simple. I like to find tools that are the quickest, that pack the most impact. And I started to be able to have experience of shifting my state of mind. And I started to do it consistently. And that's one of the things, like, when you're talking about a gratitude practice or any practice, you're talking about a habit. And in order for it to become a habit, whether it's a bad habit or a good habit, it needs to be done consistently. And, habits, the anatomy of habits, are all the same, no matter what book you read or what expert is speaking, or whoever is claiming that they've come up with a new way to create a habit. Like, they're all essentially talking about the same exact thing, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. And, you need to be able, the first step is to take on the identity. Like, this is what I did with depression. I had to do the same thing with the gratitude. I had to take on the identity of the person who had the habit already. Somebody who had a daily habit of, like, practicing gratitude. I had to take on that identity. And then I needed to start really small and be really consistent. And eventually you plug into reinforce the momentum. So the point is gratitude isn't something that's like, oh, I got a raise, or, my child was born. I'm really grateful. Now's a good time to practice gratitude. Or I'm feeling like shit, and, I just was handed a bad hand. Now's a good time to practice gratitude. It needs to be consistent, meaning daily, don't miss it. So you keep that door cracked so it could freely flow in all the time. And there's many ways, that little tools that you could do to plug into that. And we'll talk some more about that at the end of the show. But so that's my experience.
It's so true, Joey. I remember, and I've actually got my little journal of my first 90 days, and I used to do a gratitude list each day. Now, you just talked about it. It's not an easy thing to find. It wasn't for me, and I'm absolutely no expert on the matter, but I do love that I've been able to find it. But I remember even hearing that word gratitude in my early days. When I was ungrateful and unhappy, when I'd hear the word gratitude, it used to annoy me. A lot of things used to annoy me, actually. But I started writing a gratitude list, 5 things. And if anyone out there is listening and you haven't done one, maybe try this. Just a gratitude list, 5 things that I was grateful for each day. Now, I share this with the men I work with all the time. When I'm saying 5 things, it's important tomorrow not to use. You can use one thing from today's list. So this is about starting to identify the smaller things in life that I'm grateful for. The things that I didn't know that I'm grateful for. Having a good meal last night might be one. It might be saying hello to someone and then also responding to that, and I see them smile. For me today, speaking to my daughter this morning on the phone lights me up. But I started doing that repeatedly, day after day, and I used to think this is a waste of time. Like, what is this doing? And I suggested for 3 months that I did it, right? I still don't reckon I even got any results in 3 months. Like, my gratitude hadn't changed. But in the background, something was changing within me, I was starting to identify those smaller things. I was identifying that, I am grateful to have friends in my life. I am grateful to be clean today. And then I look back at that book years later, and I've got the book here, and it actually makes me cringe when I see some of the stuff that I wrote, because I guess I'm so far removed from what I was. And I also go over some of my journals, I'd love to share also with you guys a tip that I use every single day, and it's like this daily inventory. Every single day I spend some time of an evening just reflecting on the things that I did well today. I acknowledge what I did good today, and then I also think about what could I do better tomorrow. And this tool, I truly believe, is where a lot of my I don't know, I'm still here. I'm still trying. I'm still on this journey of personal development. And I think that inventory, the daily inventory for me, has been incredibly important, and very, very helpful to keep me on track, and to keep me aware of the good things in my life and the things that I need to work on. The things kept me moving forward. So, I wanted to share that with our peeps today, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first off, that like, I don't do any of this stuff perfectly. I don't think any of us do. And I fall short. But the thing is that I continue to keep trying. So anything that I'm talking about, and I do have, many very consistent, good, healthy habits, and I'm kind of gifted in a way that, like, I have an ability to really simplify things and to do things repetitively. And it's how I used and I drank. And it's a lot of the career where I spent most of my life working was being a woodworker and building custom furniture. And I learned a lot about, taking large things, taking this big mountain of a thing and reverse engineering it and breaking it down into really, really small steps that I can do repetitively over and over and over and over again. And so, what we're talking about here, a gratitude practice. I mean, I think it's all spiritual tools, all spiritual work is about shifting perspective. And it doesn't necessarily, matter how it is we do that, but whether that be prayer, whether that be meditation or a gratitude practice or practicing, random acts of kindness or looking at you mentioned, Danny, and this was a game changer for me too, was looking at what I was doing well, like looking at my wins every day.
Yes.
I didn't start doing that until I hit another bottom in recovery. And when I started, paying a whole lot less attention to what was wrong with me, which I got really good at, because that's part of, recovery, is to be able to look at our human shortcomings and to be able to take ownership for our behavior and to try to change it. But I took it too far. Like I take everything else too far. Like I take an inventory every day and I use it as a club to beat myself with. And I did that for 5 or 6 years. And it became, after, clearing out all that muck, it starts to become a little too much. There's a time when, like, strictly focus on where I fall short and how I'm not enough, and what I'm doing wrong is detrimental to my recovery, and it keeps me from going higher. And when I hit that other bottom, that was another tool that I implemented on a daily basis, consistently, not miss, is my brain only sees where I fall short. My brain only sees how I'm not enough. My brain only sees like what I have that someone's going to take, or like what I want that I can't get. And I don't think alcoholics or addicts of any kind have cornered the market on this. I think it's a human thing. But when I started looking at what I was doing well, just 5 things, and what I have to be grateful for, Danny, you mentioned the small, seemingly small, insignificant things that I typically take for granted, and trying to stretch a little further each time, not just write the same things every single day, but just stretch slightly outside of my comfort zone, just 1%, just really dig. And that's where the work is. Like when I have that moment where I can't come up with another thing and then it hits me, that's where the door opens and the gratitude flows in.
It's, Joey, absolutely. It takes practice, doesn't it? It takes a lot of practice. And like you said, identifying those small things. And as you were talking about that, I looked around and I got to make Gene Girdley. He's written a book. He's from, I think Gene's in Texas or in North Carolina. But he sent me the book and it arrived in the mail a couple of days ago. And I just thought, and he's a member I connect with and I talk regularly with on LinkedIn, And actually yesterday I ordered another book. I don't even read, mind you. I hate reading actually, but I've fallen into 2 books that I've committed to reading over the next couple of weeks. So that's I just wanted to share that. And Joey, thanks for sharing. Can I just I want to go back to something Justin has talked about. He said he really likes us, and could you if we could help you get back? Can you see that comment, Joey? Can you see the comments? And Justin, if you're still listening, mate, I totally get where you're coming from, and especially that stuff about in the early days. And I know we're talking about, Justin's talking about the 12-step fellowship. For me, I used to identify all the negatives. I picked at it, and it did me no justice. Like all it does, and I'm just sharing. I'll just take that off the screen. I didn't mean to personalize that so much, Justin. But when I used to focus on those negatives and I pick things for everything, I never felt, I guess, a part of. And I know. And look, Joey, I'm part of a big community of people in recovery, and I want to talk about this too. Right? People often talk about cliques bunches of people who stick together, right? I love cliques. I admire everyone who's in a clique. I don't think I'm really in a clique. I like to think I'm kind of a floater. I float between cliques, but we all need a bunch of people close to us, I think, who we can feel comfortable with and can fall back to. So I think, that even just that word clique is really negative. It's got a negative connotation to it because for me, again, we're all just sick people trying to get well. I didn't want to label that, but sick people trying to get well. I am absolutely no better, and I love to think that I'm no worse. I used to think I was the sickest person in the room everywhere I went. Okay, and it kind of goes back to what you were talking around about focusing on those negatives in the early days, and then I realized years later that we're all just fucked. Like, it's not just me. I'm not we're all here to get help, and that's kind of what I love this show being about, being able to share those experiences too, Joey. So, and I hope that helps, Justin. Like, all I'm saying is, I heard this other thing, if you don't get it, stick around long enough and it will get you. That was another one that sort of helped me. And I just want to say hello to anyone else who's joined us too. Hey, Louis. It's an ongoing journey. Personal development, becoming a better person, it's hard work too, yeah, Joey. Let's not try and I'm not trying to suggest to anyone out there that it's hard work, yeah. If I want to be a better person, I basically need to identify the things that need attention today. I talked about doing a checklist yesterday, and I think a checklist is a great way to move forward. But and I need to work on that stuff,
Yeah, I mean, I think recovery and life in general is about uncovering the truth. And the truth is, I'm just a human amongst humans. Like, I have shortcomings and I have gifts. And, Justin mentioned the ego. Like, the ego mind has two sides. It has and it's about keeping us separate from others and judgment. It has an inferior side and a superior side. And when I reached a point, in my journey of recovery and my self-introspection journey, when I realized that I wasn't all bad or all good, I was both. And like, when I realized that I didn't have to be all bad or all good, I started to ease up on myself and I started to get closer. I started connecting with other people and I started to see how we were alike, not like how I was different. I stopped comparing my insides with other people's outsides. I started being so critical of myself. I stopped being as judgmental of other people. Am I critical of myself? Yes. Am I judgmental of other people? Absolutely. Anyone who says that they're not, I don't think they're telling you the truth. But like, that's what recovery is. It's about leveling the playing field. It's about, I am just a human amongst humans. I'm one amongst many, and we're all made of the same stuff. So I know, Danny, you got a short window here. And Danny, by the way, is coming off 48 straight hours of work. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at you. Look,
that's not true. I'm there for 48 hours. Well, actually, probably a bit longer. But I've got my own little room at work. I get to have a sleep, of course. But yeah, I mean, that stuff. We've just been doing this show a little bit later for me, but it doesn't work with our time difference. I normally come home.
We went in the opposite directions now. So now we're talking like you guys. I think we fell behind. I don't know what the hell. No, we sprung ahead, and then you fell behind an hour, and now the separation is getting further apart. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out a consistent time to do this.
Just a couple of comments here, Ian. And hey, Ian, good to see you, mate. Too, and stop focusing on the negatives. Thank you, mate. I hope we can help with that, because you don't forget too. Like, when we do that, hey, Joey, and anyone out there, like, it's a waste of time focusing on the negatives. It's a dead set waste of time, because that's how I think of it anyway. like what a waste of my life when I just want to focus on the negatives, like when I flip the script and I look at the positives, and don't get me wrong, like I don't do this very well all the time, but I think what's important when I'm not doing it well, and if someone says, how you going, I let them know. I let someone know yesterday I wasn't feeling it, and to be honest, I wasn't feeling it this morning. It's, sometimes we struggle, sometimes I struggle. So yeah, Ian, and Patrick said something good to complete. Where was it? This comment? We're complaining about something to my sponsor. He would ask, does it matter? Would say yes. He would say, will it matter 5 hours from now, 5 days from now, 5 months from now? So true. Like that line, it works for me as well because it sort of puts things into perspective. So thanks so much for sharing that, Patrick. Yes, Joey. Yeah, you're right. I do have to sort of wrap it up.
Yeah,
short.
I just want to make a. You mentioned surrounding yourself with people with a common problem and a common solution, community. Connection, environment. It's very, very, very important. And, for me, that like my instinct is usually wanting to surround myself with people that are going to tell me what I want to hear. And so I have to very on purpose surround myself with people who are going to challenge me, or who aren't scared to tell me what I don't want to hear. Like I need to have a nice mix. I can't just be surrounding myself with people who are gonna, nod their head. Like I need people to tell me, hey man, like your thinking's off, or you're really selling yourself short here, or hey, you're looking at this the wrong way. You really fucked up, or you know what, you're being a little too hard on yourself. These are some of the ways where I think, you're adding some value to the world. And so our environment and the people we surround ourselves with are really, really important. And we like to wrap it up, and we've shared some tools here tonight, and we'll wrap it up with if we can come up with another one for people to experiment with to see. By experiment, I mean like I said earlier in the show, I don't necessarily think it works a one-shot deal. So, make it small, but make it something that you can do consistently and get some repetition and some consistency so you can plug into momentum and solidify that thing. And a habit. So I was thinking, some of the ones that I've tried, and I've settled on the ones that pack the most punch that I can get done the quickest. But one of the things is that I did early on was to keep a gratitude jar. And I had this big jar, and every time, I would put little pieces of paper in there of like gifts and blessings and, things that brought me joy. And when, I had those moments where I lost sight of the truth and I started to feel like, I didn't have the resources, or maybe I was actually a piece of shit, or I was, I didn't have energy, or, I wasn't inspired, or I just was feeling like shit, I would go to that jar. And I'd pull out one, I'd pull out two, I'd pull out three, awesome. And it would shift my perspective. It would be which is a spiritual tool.
It's a reminder, isn't it? It's a reminder from yourself as well. That's the power in it, for sure. Joey, today and 6 days a week, I hit the gym in the morning. Now. This is my tip today, and I think this is my biggest and my best one I could, and this is for me anyway, okay, but I find rigorous exercise, like getting myself, pushing myself, and it's not something easy, it's not something I began to do or became fond of in the beginning, but today, 11 and a half years down the track, and probably 8 years into my training, I've become, I don't want to say I rely on it. It's a tool that I use 6 days a week to spark me up for the day. I'm not someone who goes to the gym in the afternoon. I wish I was. If you are, I admire you. I need to be there. I was there at 5:30 a.m. this morning. And that's only because I had to run group at 8 a.m. and I need an hour and a half at the gym. But that'd be my little because my tip, I guess, to help with gratitude, believe it or not, because what happens is I walk out there often, and not always, but I guess proud of myself is one thing. Secondly, my spirit is more open and it's more alive. I feel good, and it's actually a fact, isn't it? They say that, physical exercise gets the endorphins going. It's like this natural high. And I love getting high, so that's why I'm there so often. So going back 8 years ago, I heard that muscle burns fat. I didn't want to stop eating. So I thought, all right, I'm going to try and get more. And that's all it took for me to get there. I kept eating like a pig, but I just started slowly doing a bit of training. And there's this funny thing that happens over time. We just want to become healthier and better. And, of course, our health, our mental health, our physical health, all increases our levels of happiness and connection to the universe, for me anyway, mate. So there's my
yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, it's scientifically proven. There are, that's one of the ways we can change our state of minds, and we have the choice is through our physiology, through our focus, through meaning, and through language, the power of words, how we speak to ourselves most specifically, and how we speak to others. Those are all scientifically proven ways that we could change our state of mind. And that's what we're talking about, perspective shifts, shifting from a state of lack to one of abundance, looking what we have instead of what we don't have. So I think it's been a really fun show. I appreciate everybody participating. Ian, Justin, Patrick, Heidi, Damon, TC. Yeah, if there's anything, please feel free to connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn or down here on my website, www.efficacylifecoaching.com. Let's meet and chat and see how we can be of service to each other. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joey. What are we going to do next week? Who are we interviewing next week? You got a guest lined up?
I'm going to get someone. I'll get somebody. It'll be a cracker, as they say.
It'll be a cracker. Do you know what's gold is I do love the ability for us just to sort of do this organically. Today we have had, and like you said, thank you so much, Justin, for all your input, and Patrick and Heidi and everyone, and Ian, everyone else for joining in. But I love that all my job as a human being today, as a man in recovery, is to share my experiences with others. And I'm such honored to have you with me. And here we are just answering some of those questions, Joey. It's a true blessing,
Absolutely. I wish I heard what you said, though. I'm listening. I'm reading Justin's last comment, and it's a long one. And then, you were speaking, and I didn't hear a word you said. So
you're right. Did you need to respond to that last question?
That? No, it's okay. I appreciate your thoughtful, crafted responses, and I don't know if you. Oh, it looks like you're on LinkedIn. I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn, and we'll talk some more.
Guys, you're the legends.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. That's a wrap. Snap. Whatever. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay on the show, Joey. I'll end it.